Would you please state your name and your NDOC number for the board?
My name is Philip Gilmore, and 103-6381.
Thank you, Mr. Gilmore. I'm hearing Representative Thomas, and beside me here is Commissioner Keeler, and we are the panel designated to consider you for parole in reference to criminal case number 244542, wherein you were convicted of pandering and living from earnings of prostitute. In reference to the pandering charge, you were sentenced to 18 months to 48 months confinement. Your parole eligibility date is March 14, 2009, and your projected expiration date is July 9, 2010. You have a consecutive sentence pending, which is 12 to 32 months, and that's for the living from earnings of prostitute. Is that your understanding of the dates and the charges?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you understand that if you were granted parole, it would just be to your consecutive sentence and not to the streets?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Would you please look at the screen and tell us whether or not that is your name attached to that notice of hearing form?
My vision is not as clear as it's supposed to be. You said above?
You see a form there on the screen?
Yes, I see it. I see Philip Gilmore.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that your signature attached?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay, then thank you. For the record, the notice of this meeting and advisement of rights was properly executed and will therefore continue with this hearing. What we're doing, Mr. Gilmore, is we're trying to determine whether or not you are a good candidate to be paroled to your consecutive sentence. And in doing so, we need to find out some information about you, and such information as, why you committed the incident offense, what your feelings are in reference to that offense. We'll ask you about your prior criminal history, if there is any, and we'll be asking about what you've been doing since you've been in prison. But before we start our questions, are there any comments or statements you'd like to make to the board before we start?
No, you may proceed, ma'am.
Okay, would you then go ahead and tell us how it was you came to be convicted of this offense?
During this particular time, that my drug addiction had increased. I grew up kind of like in a defense mechanism. What I mean by that is my mother kind of like raised me in a church environment. So kind of like when I got out to Vegas, I kind of lost my mind. So I had more of freedom and liberty to do things, because growing up in the church that I came out of, it was like a sanctified church. We had like a lot of restrictions. So I came out here where I was started out singing in lounges and things like that, and then I got into the drug culture and things like that as far as a user. And then I came across a young lady who I began to basically start a relationship with. During that particular time, I did not know that she was involved in prostitution. Speaking of Mrs. Jennifer Harper, which was of the age of, she was adult age. And
she was what?
She was adult age. Adult.
Oh, adult.
She's an adult. Yeah. So within the relationship, I ended up learning that she was involved in prostitution. But at the same time, I had me a friend that liked to get high. And also, by me being a young man at that time, I was indulging in fornication and just having fun, as I thought what fun was, my small definition of what fun was. And during this time, I ended up meeting another young lady through her, which I thought was of an adult age, and she lied about her age to be in the environment with me. Had not she had lied about her age, this could have been avoided, not to make any excuses or justification on why I'm here, because I did commit the crime. But at the same time, if she didn't tell me that she was under the age of 18, this wouldn't even came further.
Okay.
This wouldn't even made it this far. So during that time, as far as like using drugs, my discernment had got poor. negligence on my part, and yes, she had false identification, but as a young man, if I had been doing the things that I was taught as a child from my mother, my grandmother, because I got a strong church foundation, if I had done the things that were instilled in me as a child, I wouldn't be here. So as a result of disobedience and of the instructions that my mother and my grandmother has implanted in me as a child and going contrary, this is the results. So, not to make any justification, I committed the crime of pandering. I apologize to the state. I apologize for even this time that we're spending here today, because I'm not a criminal. If you check the record, prior to that, I had a little case before that got dismissed. But to the age of 23 years old, everything is zero. I've never been arrested a day in my life, because everything coming up was singing. That's all I've ever done is sing and play.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I'm not violent. I'm not. It's just at that time I just got caught up in drugs and finally got into some sexual activity, and devil had my mind. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Young and stupid.
You don't have any other convictions, Mr. Gilmore. However, you do have a couple other arrests, and they were for domestic violence, no prior conviction, and robbery and pandering with force. Okay, so it's not like you have a totally clean record. This is your first conviction, at least the only one that we're able to find, the only one that we know about. Okay, you told a little, I don't know, like a wraparound story. I don't know if there's any truth in there anywhere. But you did come out finally, and I guess you did. Yeah, you did say some truth. You did say that you were pandering, but that was after trying to sugarcoat it and go around the barn and and circumvent the truth. But that's okay. All right. We know what happened. You know what happened. You just confessed to it. That's good. You've been convicted of it. All right. You never did mention what your feelings are about that offense. And I'm curious. You said you came from a religious background, and I'm sure a part of your religion didn't teach you that it was okay to go out and try to live off the earnings of a victim, a young girl in this case. 14 is what the police report indicates, and they also indicate there were a couple other young women, and none of them were adult. There's one that was possibly 19. One that was possibly 19 who was later determined to be 16. Okay.
Ma'am, that's incorrect. The lady Nicole Morton, she's 19, and the lady Jennifer Harper is 23 years old. The lady Lakeisha Jordan, which was the alleged victim in the case, which basically we found out later on that she was 14, had lied about her age and confessed within the motion of discovery that she had told me that she was 19. And there's also corroborative statements other than just my mouth from Nicole Morton and Jennifer Harper, which she stated even in sentencing that the lady, that Lakeisha Jordan had lied about her age. Like I said before, not to justify anything, because pandering, that's what I did.
Right.
I did entice.
Okay, right. But why would I believe why would I believe that what you just said was accurate? But that's part of the point, the fact that the victims are so young. But the main point here is that you're pandering.
Well,
you're
that is the main...
to obtain money instead of getting a legitimate job. Okay?
Well, okay.
And I'm wondering how you feel about that now.
Well, currently right now, I apologize to God about it, and I apologize to my family. I come from a prestigious background. Everybody within my family has protocol within the church, so of course I apologize to my grandmother, which is alumni at Wilberforce and things like that, and I apologize to God.
Let's focus on you, not what the family members did. Okay.
Well, I apologize, number one, to myself, because I know I let myself down. And I'm not just some young man that got into negativity simply because I didn't have any knowledge pertaining to school books and didn't do anything as far as the academics is concerned. So I apologize to myself, because I know this is a besetment.
Did you finish high school, Mr. Gilmore?
Yes, I did, ma'am.
Okay. You said you worked as a musician?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Where did you work as a musician?
At Bally's and Indigo Lounge. I used to be a part of a group by the name of Next Movement and various other groups that are still singing here in Las Vegas.
How long did you work with that group, or those groups, or in that capacity?
Over a year and a half, almost 2 years.
Oh, okay. And what years would that have been?
the year of 2005 when I exactly came to Las Vegas from Chicago.
Okay. All right. You also worked as a telemarketer for about 2 years?
CCA, which is now closed, Capital Credit Alliance, that was on Sahara and Maryland Parkway, ma'am.
Okay. And indicates here in your PSI that you drink every day. Do you have a problem with alcohol, or is that social drinking, or what? How would you describe it?
That was social drinking, ma'am. That was every now and then thing as far as the drinking is concerned. I wasn't an alcoholic like that. It wasn't a daily use.
Okay. You indicated that you were under the influence at the time of this offense?
Yeah, during that time, yes, I was. Not to make any justifications, but yes, I was.
What were you under the influence of?
Cocaine.
Okay.
Codeine.
Have you obtained any treatment, programming, or counseling for that problem?
Other than the Word of God, ma'am, no. I haven't been able to receive any class because during that time I was in protective custody, which they did not allow me to go to classes. If I were allowed to go in the county, I would have went. But other than that, going to Bible study and studying the Word of God, no. There hasn't been any other classes that I could have took.
Okay. Have you been able to take any classes or any programming since you've been confined here in prison?
No, ma'am.
Okay, nothing.
No, ma'am.
And how long have you been there? You've just been there a few months, right?
What, in here, as far as the desert, I've been here since June 9th, ma'am.
Okay.
The 9th of June.
2009.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You have a problem with gambling?
Not really. I know my limitations.
You have a daughter?
Yes, ma'am.
And how old is she?
Currently, right now, she's 1 year old. She's about to make 2 on the 6th of December. I got arrested on the 17th of April, so she was approximately 4 months and some change when I got arrested.
And what would you think of someone that, decided that they make a living out of maybe pandering or prostituting your daughter when she becomes 12 or 13, or 14 or 15, or any age?
Well, number one, now that I'm back to my sense, I'm back to my conscience, I would instill the Word of God and educate my daughter to the fullest. I think that the number one reason why young girls are out there in prostitution is simply because a father is not in the home. And so that's why they go into the streets to basically fulfill a love and a capacity that they missed at home. So that's why they go calling these men daddy, simply because the father was not home. So if the leaders are in the home teaching their daughters how to be women and teaching her value as a woman, then she's going to avoid a young man trying to entice her to become a prostitute because she's been taught the real definition of what love is. So she don't have to go into the streets to look for her.
That's good. I hope you do teach your daughter that. And with your religious background, it appears to me that you would help those ones that you found in the street back toward God or better purpose.
But not to use that, ma'am, like I said. My mother, the type of church that we was raised in, we weren't able to do anything. So when I so-called the word backslid and left the congregation and came out to Vegas, that's when I began to have fun, because a lot of things were foreign to me when I was in Chicago and things like that, because we wasn't able to do things like that coming up. So I just wanted to so-called have fun.
What kind of things you talking about? You weren't able to do pimp and pander or what?
No so-called as far as even pimp or pander. I'm talking about as far as the congregation that I came in, it wasn't even allowed as far as to even have a girlfriend or something like that. That would have been looked at as secular or something contrary to the word or something like that. To avoid fornication, we wouldn't even put ourselves and make provisions for that. So it's like when I finally got the land of liberty as far as freedom to be able to do certain things, that's when I kind of lost my mind, to parties and all that stuff. I didn't get the opportunity to do any of those things until I got the age of 21 years old, which was 2005 of April 30th.
Okay, Mr. Gilmore. You're 25 now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you said you've returned to your senses?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let's hope
Yes,
you
ma'am.
maintain that status, okay? And that when you get out of prison, that you know that the right thing to do is, since you have an education, is to do something with that. Try to get a legitimate job. Don't take advantage of people who have less than you or are more vulnerable than you are.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let me see if Commissioner Keeler has any questions or comments. Okay. Do you have any closing comments you'd like to make?
I just basically hope and pray that the words that came out of my mouth, that it was interpreted right, because I didn't want to use anything as far as justification. I did commit the crime of pandering and living off the earnings, and that's why I got convicted of. It's no taking back from that. But from the same time, since my time of incarceration, it has also been a time of rehabilitation and a time to receive salvation back. And I've written 153 songs. I'm ready to go back into basically getting back into my music. And there's a lot of positive things that I feel like I can do, and I can't do them out here incarcerated. I can't reach my daughter. I can't teach my daughter. I can't instill in my daughter what needs to be instilled in these walls. I can't.
What are your plans for the rest of your time in prison until you're eligible to see the board again?
To educate myself and put myself into an environment of positivity. Even the inmates that I surround myself around are inmates who are positive. I don't hang around violent people. I don't hang around things that are negative. If you see, I don't have any write-ups or anything like that. I'm very respectful. I don't get into it with the COs or anything like that, because that's not what my lifestyle consists of. I just want to get back out there. I want to get back out there to the streets. I'm not used to this. I've never even been into juvenile or anything like that. And I think it's something wrong even with the papers, because with the domestic violence that you spoke on, that case got dismissed, and the other cases that were similar to it had the same alleged victim, and all of those other cases was dismissed. So prior to this, it's only one arrest that I've ever been arrested for, and that got dismissed.
I didn't say you were convicted. I said you were arrested for those charges.
You said arrested as in plural. Prior to this, I'd only got arrested one time, and that case got dismissed. So this is the only case that really should even be in the system. My whole life, I've been clean. Clean. I've never been probation, none of that. I've never been in any type of trouble.
Okay, anything else?
You have a nice day, ma'am. I appreciate you for giving me a listening ear, and I hope you grant me parole.
What happens next? Let me just tell you what happens next, Mr. Gilmore. We will deliberate here, but it takes 4 commissioners to grant or to deny parole. So in addition to the 2 of us, there has to be 2 other people that vote. After the final vote is in, the decision's final, the prison will be advised of the board's decision, and thereafter your caseworker will advise you in writing of the board's decision. Okay, that'll be probably 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks after the final vote is in. Okay.
I appreciate it.
Right. And good luck to you, Mr. Gilmore.
God bless you.
Thank you for your time. I'll see you guys in about a month.